We've just arrived in Freeport, Illinois, about an hour and a half to 2 hours from Chicago. Oh, it's about 10:30 at night. There's a large white tent here and a campfire because we're across the street from the Sensata plant. Actually, it's the old Honeywell plant that was bought by Sensata, which is owned by Bain Capital. And a group of workers and their supporters are camping out here until the factory closes, exporting its jobs to China. They've built a stage, which we see over there in the darkness, that says, Mitt Romney, come to Freeport. And above, it says Bainport. Can you tell me your name?
Dot Turner.
And what are you doing here across from the factory that you work in?
We're protesting Bain Capital sending our jobs to China, outsourcing our jobs to China.
How long have you worked at this factory?
For 43 years.
What year did you start?
I started in 1969.
And how old were you?
I was 18 at the time.
43 years you worked in this one factory?
Yes.
And when did you learn that you would be losing your job?
On December the 30th, 2010.
What had happened then? They
called us into a room and they told us that if you're sitting in this room today, you are now an employee of Sensata.
Honeywell had sold to Sensata.
Yes, Honeywell had sold us to Sensata.
So where does Bain come into this?
They own Sensata.
So how did you feel on that day when they told you that you would, after they told you you're working for Sensata, when did you learn you'd be losing your job altogether?
They told us that day. They were blunt and to the point. They told us to wait, don't, build on false hopes, thinking that the company purchased the automotive line, that it would be staying. And they told us between 18 to 24 months they were phasing the business out and they were sending it to China. And they bought in Chinese workers for us to train to take our jobs.
You trained your replacement?
Not in my particular area, but in most of the other areas that they had to train the Chinese workers.
How did you feel and how did your co-workers feel who were doing that?
Angry and belittled. I mean, it was like an insult to take your job, but then request that you train the replacements.
When does your job end?
November 30th.
Will you be getting any kind of severance?
I'll get a 6-month severance and I'll be able to collect unemployment.
6-month severance for
43 years.
What are you going to do then?
See what's available for me, what's out there. Look into some type of retraining. But at my age, who would want to go through, that kind of trouble when you've had a solid job for 43 years, hoping to retire the normal way?
I see you all have built a stage that's inviting Mitt Romney to Freeport. Why Mitt Romney?
Because he is one of the investors and owners of Bain Capital. Even though he denies it, he still has a big part in Bain Capital, because Bain Capital is bringing the investors in millions of dollars. So why would you turn loose a company that you stand a chance of making millions?
What would you say to him if he did come to Freeport?
I would tell him that he has the power and the authority to stop this. If he was really concerned about the American people, and if he was concerned about creating jobs, the 12 million jobs that he always uses as his stump speech, he could create this job by leaving it here.
I'm Cheryl Randecker, and I work at Sensata, and I've been there for 33 years.
So you were there when it was Honeywell, then bought by Sensata, which is owned by?
Yes, but Sensata is owned by Bain Capital, which is in turn Romney's baby.
Are you actually camping here?
Yes, but my camping is in my car.
And what's the point? Why are you camping out here?
To prove a point, to basically do just about anything to save our jobs, and to bring the attention to that people will do just about anything to save a good job. And that's what we're asking for, is to have these jobs saved.
Are you afraid of repercussions?
At this point, no, because there really isn't too much they can do. They're already taking my job. They're taking my livelihood. They're taking my means of supporting my family away. So with it getting closer, it's almost like you really can't do too much more to me.
So here you sit in front of a campfire to stay warm.
Stay warm and just kind of look into the flames and try to reflect and find some calming and some sense out of all the chaos that goes on over there.
Now, you remarkably were sent to China by Honeywell when the plant was owned by Honeywell.
Yeah, and I went over there and trained for the airflow, the medical devices that Honeywell transferred over there in 2010.
Were you concerned at the time that this flow of jobs to China would end up meaning you all were going to lose your jobs?
No, I actually thought I'd probably be safe with the automotive, because Honeywell had been trying to sell automotive for quite some time. And we did hear it when we were in China that it was sold. But when we came back, they denied it. And then about 4 months later, they announced it. So it was a surprise that it's acted this fast. I thought it would take a little more time, but so be it, I guess. Life will go on. It's just going to be a hard one.
So you went there and you were training workers eventually who are taking the jobs here, of the workers here. And then Chinese workers were sent here as well?
Yeah, the Sensata brought their own Chinese workers over from Baoying and Changzhou to train on the automotive lines, because where I was at in Nanjing was the airflow pressure lines from Honeywell. So they brought their employees over here, and some were new hires and some had been there for some time. But we had to train them on the operations that are being moved over in our particular line, which are they're technical machines, and they really didn't pick up well on the machines that are being built. And not to mention the machines don't run that great all the time. So it's when you're running so many parts over a machine, things break. And if you don't see them and you're not running them on a day-to-day basis, then when you run into the problem, you may not be able to fix it.
Cheryl Randecker worked for 33 years at the plant. Dot Turner for 43 years. They lose their jobs in a few weeks. Their website, Bainport.com. And that does it for our show from Freeport, Illinois.